How are ya, curio peeps? Remember when I recently told you that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were not doing so well with their neighbors in Beverly Hills? If you don't, then you can refresh your mind by watching our previous video. I guess that they can move that issue behind them now that, as it turns out, that they have moved from the mansion, for which they paid no less than $18 million. It wasn't a matter of luxury, the house did not lack that, it's just that the couple is still looking for the perfect love nest. So stay with me to see what the new home of the former Duke and Duchess of Sussex looks like. How many palaces and mansions did they live in before they got into this one? And what were the reasons for them not staying in one place? But before we continue, don't forget to hit the bell and the subscription buttons. It's not some big news that Meghan and Harry have been living in the US for a while now, but it just seems like they keep moving around like something is wrong. And in order to try and answer that, let's just take a tour of the palaces and mansions that the couple has previously lived in, albeit for a short period. If the story were about me, it would just be kind of an apartment where you can see all it has to offer just by standing in the doorway. But that would be boring, and over way too quickly. Anyway, let's get back to the royals, and after marrying Prince Harry on May of 19th of 2018, the Dukes lived in Nottingham Cottage at Kensington Palace. When the baby of the family, little Archie, was born, they moved to Frogmore Cottage, though when you think of the word cottage, you're probably thinking about some cozy small house in the countryside surrounded by pretty flowers. Well, let me just tell you that these people have a completely different idea as to what a cottage is. And a fun fact for those who might be wondering about the name, yeah, the name comes from the big number of frogs which have always lived in those low-lying marshy areas. The renovation of Frogmore Cottage was founded by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or just Grandma to Harry, though through the sovereign grant reflecting the monarchy's responsibility to maintain buildings of historic importance, according to a statement about the renovation on the website. It also said that the expenses related to the facilities, furniture, and decorations and of the couple's brand new residence were all privately funded by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Then on January 8th, Meghan and Harry announced that they were leaving the royal family and that they would divide their time between the UK and Canada. Well, that was the initial idea. So first, they headed for Canada and stayed in a mansion, obviously on the Vancouver Island. The former Duke of Sussex rented this humble abode with more than 1,000 square meters with 5 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms, and with a house for guests that was more than 200 square meters in size. To have been born into a rich family. It seems that either there weren't enough bathrooms or space for Archie to play in, or it was just too small that the couple decided to move once again. And why not? This time they would move to the US. At first, they thought of Malibu. But it turns out that in the end they preferred Beverly Hills. You know, the place, a city in LA County, California, where most of Hollywood stars live in? Yeah, that's the one. The neighbors included Adele, Ashton Kutcher with his wife Mila Kunis, Jennifer Lawrence, and many more. So for their new dream pad, they paid no less than $18 million. Now, when I tell you that the house had everything, I mean literally everything. From a gym to a spa to a yoga room. I don't know about them, but if that was my house, I would never leave. Though every one of their mansions had all of those things, in addition, everything was just way more luxurious than the Frogmore Cottage. I suppose a 291-year-old house with an interesting history cannot compare to the modernity and the lavish styles of Hollywood. And so the new parents and Archie grow up there, surrounded by celebrities and the best gardens in all of California. Yet, despite the 18 rooms, Harry apparently didn't feel comfortable enough, and according to him, he wanted to change, but not such a big change, and for the interiors of the house not to be so American. With that being said, now that Meghan and Harry were looking for a new mansion, we come to the 5th and the last one. So a couple of weeks ago, the former Duke and Duchess moved to Montecito in Santa Barbara, just an hour from where they lived before, and according to the couple, they bought it without any financial help from Grandma Liz. But this building in Montecito was built in 2003 and is a little bit smaller than the one that they left behind in Beverly Hills. It has 9 rooms, 16 bathrooms. Oh, the horror of that, I mean, come on. Such a downgrade. It also has a gym, a sauna, a game room, and even a private movie theater. so that they can make a lockdown just a little bit more enjoyable for themselves. And as I mentioned, it is a bit smaller, but it does not mean it's small by our definition of the word. And anyway, that was just the beginning. Harry and Meghan's new little shack also has its own tea room. That is, if Harry wants to continue with his 4 p.m. tea time habits. There is also a playground just for Archie, a swimming pool, a tennis court, and above all, a beautiful garden, since the prince has a fascination with them, and that's why he couldn't miss a multi-level rose garden, 100-year-old olive trees, and even Italian cypresses. Ha! And they say money can't buy happiness. Psh! Whatever, guys. And even though the Montecito mansion does not have the big and luxurious doors that the Buckingham Palace used to have, Harry was in charge of giving his own touch by adding some beautiful roses to the arches at the entrance. And in Meghan, Harry's little house, they put a lot of wooden interiors to give it a warmer touch. Plus, the living room there has a stone fireplace and a wooden library next door. Nice, and if a spark goes off in there, it's bye-bye books. And one thing that stands out in the Duke's new house has been an older and simpler look than the one that was in the Beverly Hills. So will this family finally be in the house in which they will love for the rest of their lives? At least they can spend a few months there, and if you look at the history they have been building up over the last few years since they have been together, that is, and that is the property did not come cheap either. Although they paid less than the previous one, they paid $14 million and apparently even took it out of a mortgage. Imagine that, a mortgage? And surely you will think that they could have gotten help from their other royals, but no. Harry does not want to take a step back in his decision and therefore must live with the consequences of his decisions and actions. Recently, there has been a lot of talk about what the future will be of the Suits actress career, but because, as we all very know, bills don't pay themselves, and from the moment they set foot outside the British royal family, they took responsibility for their financial independence. And so now it turns out that the Sussexes wanted to have their own TV show. Wait, what? Yep, you definitely heard right. The show they want to make aims to have Meghan as a protagonist that will address issues such as women's empowerment, the independence, and the fight against racial discrimination. Apparently, both Harry and his wife will appear in the show, but they will not focus on the couple, but on the issues at hand and more. They have met with the NBC Universal Studio executive Bonnie Hammer, a contact Meghan had heard from when she was working on Suits, and in addition, she had already given her voice to a Disney documentary called Elephants, and it was that which gave the couple the idea of producing their own documentaries through their film and television production company. And in addition to the program, which they plan to do together, they also plan to address issues such as climate change and mental health stigma. And later is a topic that Prince Harry has been very vocal about with his brother William. Though whether they would team up on it or not, we cannot tell you. And if you want to know more about the brothers, that they aren't on the best of terms, then please click on the link above. The fact is, both brothers have gone through a very painful process in the face of their mother's death in 1997 when both of them were barely teens. I imagine having to walk behind your mother's coffin at a funeral while the eyes of the entire world are on you. And that surely leaves its mark, and Harry admitted the struggle with his mental health as well as his efforts to stay strong. Returning to the subject, both Meghan and her husband have been expressing support for various causes since they took a step aside from the royalty, such as Black Lives Matter, and in addition to the charity events they always participate in. But believe me, this is not all about the commitment that the Sussexes are showing, as just a few days ago and on the occasion of the upcoming presidential elections, Meghan argued Americans to vote, giving a very passionate speech. So despite having stepped away from the royalty, I think Meghan liked the political aspect. Or what do you guys think? Though, as you can imagine, her speech did not sit well with many, and despite the fact that she did not mention any political candidates or endorse any party, people, they got angry. And many of them even called for the Queen to strip them of their royal titles because as royals they must remain neutral. Telling people to just go out and vote is staying neutral though, right? Oh, and remember when I told you about Prince Harry's commitment to mental health? Well, now a new documentary was released called Rising Phoenix, which premiered on Netflix on August 26th and is about the Paralympics, with Prince himself speaking in it. And Harry talks about the importance of the sport when it comes to people's mental health. And in his own words, there is nothing else in the world that can bring you back from the darkest places but sport. And yes, lives have been changed on the track, but lives are also being changed in the stands. So curious, do the sport that you love the most and never stop moving forward is the message here, do you think? And so my friends, why do you think that Meghan and Harry can't stay in one place for so long? Or do you think they will change their minds and choose to return to the royal family one day? And would you watch their TV show if it was ever to happen? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place, for the next video.